Hi everyone and welcome back to the vlog channel and happy vlogmas. How are you guys doing? Are you guys having a good vlogmas so far? It is the 4th of December, so I'm a little bit late. I haven't been vlogging that much, to be honest, but things have just happened. Some of my plans, they kind of fell through, so there wasn't really much to film. Thought that we could start off this vlogmas like the first week of vlogmas, because I'll do like a weekly one. We're just kind of going through some books and kind of like some books that I'm kind of like reading and ones that I kind of want to dip into during the month of December if time allows, and also kind of just do like a little bit of a book review on the books that I have read, because I've read the whole Caraval series and I think here would be kind of a cool place to talk about it. And if you guys have read it, then definitely leave your thoughts down below, because I'll be really interested to have a good bit of conversation about, because I have some things that I want to talk about and some characters that I really love, and there's some characters I don't like too much. But yeah, I thought we'll kick off this first week of vlogmas and we'll just talk about books, because I love books and I would love to be able to share my thoughts on books with people as well. But also quickly, before we get into that, I thought I'd give you a bit of an update about like my ear piercings. So it's not been too bad. It's been 1 week since I got them pierced, because I got them pierced last Wednesday. They haven't been too bad. This one feels a little bit sore. This one doesn't even feel like anything even happened to it. This one did bleed though, like last Thursday it did bleed, but they seem to be going okay, so a little bit of an update. Okay, let's jump into it. So basically I am still reading this. I am quite possibly the slowest reader in the whole world. I don't know, I feel like I used to whiz through books so much when I was younger. Like I'd literally be there in like form room just reading a book on my phone, just go, yeah, okay, cool. And I would read so many books so quickly. Like I remember, I really miss the nights where I'd like just stay up the whole night just flicking through on Wattpad and just reading so many of the books. And I don't know if maybe, I don't know, like why? Is there a study behind like why we just read so many books when we were younger? Like when you were like 12 and you would just kind of like whiz through the books, you would finish it so quickly, you'd get through so many books in like 1 week. Maybe even like one day you would probably finish a book and start another book in that book series, or even like a brand new series and stuff. And you would just be able to understand it and like remember it. And I used to read so many books, like so many, and they were so cool. I remember it used to just be on like fanfiction.net. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. It's like, it was fanfiction.net and then you move over to Wattpad from it. And now I think the main thing is AO3. Truth be told, I've actually not even dipped into AO3. I haven't even really looked at it. I think I had like a quick glance at it when I saw it was becoming really popular on like BookTok, but I haven't actually fully invested my time into like reading that kind of fan fiction. I don't really read fan fiction as much anymore, to be honest. Like my whole like teenage years dedicated to fan fiction. I was reading so many fan fiction books. It was insane. Like after I was there for the chapter like updates. Every week I'd be reading it and I was obsessed with it. But yeah, I don't really read like fan fiction anymore, but maybe there's like a reason. There probably is a reason actually. But yeah, so like when I was younger I used to get through books so quickly, and it probably was because they were easier to read. You didn't really have to hold your attention that much when you're kind of like flicking through it, because it was like fan fiction, wasn't it? And I remember I used to read like fan fiction about the Vampire Diaries. I was obsessed with the Vampire Diaries and like fan fiction about Vampire Diaries. And it was just really funny like reading those books and kind of seeing like what people's storylines were, and how they like created it, and it was kind of cool. And then other kind of like fan fiction was obviously, I used to read like Harry Styles fan fiction. I wasn't even like, truth be told, I wasn't even a One Direction fan. I was the Wanted girl. Like during the Twitter wars and the Twitter fights and like everything going on with the fans, I was the Wanted and 5 Seconds of Summer, but that kind of came a little bit later. But I was the Wanted. So I guess I kind of had like a little secret obsession with Harry Styles fanfiction, because I fancied him. Everyone fancies Harry Styles. So yeah, so I basically was reading fanfiction all the time since I was like 12, maybe 11, around that kind of age. And I started on fanfiction.net, and that's where I first saw all the stories, and I used to write stories on fanfiction.net, and it was such a time to be alive. It was so exciting. I used to be so hyped whenever like your favorite authors would post a chapter, and it would be so cool. I feel like I've just gone on like a massive tangent about fan fiction, and being like a little nerd that used to read fan fiction full time and like write fan fiction. But it was so much fun. It was such a time to be alive. But coming back to my original point, I feel like I read so much more when obviously I was younger. It probably is because you have more time that you're not working, you're literally in school from 9 till 3. Like, what else are you doing? Like, nothing really, aside from homework. But I used to just spend most of my time reading, and I would whiz through so many different kind of books, and I would just retain it all, and I used to remember all of these like storylines and things like that. Whereas now I find it so hard to kind of like read at like a quick pace, if that makes sense. Sometimes I will get through maybe a book a week, and I think that's kind of average with like you account for like work, family, like seeing your boyfriend and things like that. Like I think a book a week is kind of more of an ideal and like normal pace to go when it comes to reading. But then there are some books that I will whiz through, like a book series. I would whiz through most of the book series and then kind of stop. I would kind of hit like a little point where I kind of just stagnated a little bit. And I really find it hard to kind of get back into it a bit, and then I kind of move on to something else. And I've done that with quite a few book series, which is really sad because it's book series I really desperately want to finish, but I just know, I don't know, sometimes it's just so hard to try and get yourself back into that reading, like that kind of book series, I guess, and things like that. But yeah, so with my slow reading pace, I am still on the Midnight Library that I mentioned in the last video, and possibly the video before that. I am still on it. It's not that much left really. Like I could get through it if I literally just sat down and just read it. I would finish it and then it would be done. And I am enjoying it. It's not as if I even paused like reading it because I'm not enjoying it. I am really enjoying the story, and I like kind of the deeper message within the story. But sometimes I kind of just feel like I hit a brick wall a bit. It's not even like as a reading slump. I've been in reading slumps. They're painful. Like even the thought of like picking up a book, I just can't be bothered to do it. I have got books on like my bookshelf that I kind of started, but I just continued to be in like a reading slump even after trying to get into it, and I just couldn't. So it's not as if I'm even in a reading slump because it's only been a couple days since I kind of picked this back up again. So my aim is to kind of get through this because I am really enjoying it, and there's quite a few other books that I kind of wanted to read in December. I'm not going to give myself a goal of trying to read it through December because I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on it, and I really just want to enjoy reading for what it is and not think I need to read X amount of books and things like that. I used to try and do that. I used to put a goal like on my Goodreads and be like, okay, I want to hit this many books for this year, and I would just never achieve it. Like I just don't have the time, and things pop up as well that kind of takes your time away from it, and I'd rather just read for the sake of like enjoying what I'm reading and being like, okay, well, I'm so excited to read this book, so I'm going to read it, rather than being like, well, I'm going to read this because it will help me hit my target or something like that. I don't want reading to be like a numbers game. I'd rather it be like an enjoyable kind of hobby instead. So that's what I'm currently reading at the moment. And recently a book series that I did finish was obviously the Caraval series. I kind of got through these 2 books in like 2 weeks, so it was like a book a week. This one's probably like a week and a half, I think I read. Possibly. I think, yeah, a week and a half it took me to read this one, but these ones were a week. And this book series, I really enjoyed it because I felt like it brought me out of that reading slump that isn't like a reading slump, you know. And I genuinely really enjoyed reading. I'm such a big fantasy reader. I will read fantasy books all day long as they've got some action, they've got a really cool like main character, they've got a really sweet love interest too. I'm very big on enemies to lovers and things like that. I really hate when you meet the love interest right at the start and you stick with them. And I hate when they're blonde. I think that's everyone. I don't know why everyone hates a blonde main character love interest so bad, but you just hate it. And if I've ever read a book, I think I've read one book where they said the love interest was blonde. I just imagine that it's a dark-haired dude. I need a dark-haired man. I don't like blonde guys. Like, I don't want to read about blonde guys either. But my thoughts on this book series is that I genuinely really enjoyed it. It was a really nice fantasy book to get into. This book, I was being gaslit by a book the whole time. I was questioning my own sanity. I was questioning everything I ever thought. Like, it tricks you, and it genuinely is really interesting like concept. I thought it was very creative and I really enjoyed reading it. I like all the characters that are in it. The main characters in this one is very different to the main character that's in like these 2, because it's about 2 sisters, and the first sister is the main character in this one, and then the other sister, she's the main character in this one, but the last one does have like dual kind of like chapters and POVs, so you do kind of come back into the head of the first main character for the final book. Basically, the whole premise for like the Caraval book series, more particularly this one, is that there is the main character. We don't actually see him in the first book series, but he's called like the Master Legend, and he hosts this game. I think it's every year that he hosts it. Yeah, so once a year he hosts this game called Caraval, and there is like a big prize at the end of it. The prize changes all the time. The prize for the first book was to get a wish, and there was this main character. She was writing to him for many years about asking to be invited, because you can only play the game if you get invited. And finally she did finally get tickets to play the game, but the game is definitely not what it seems. It is very timey-wimey and magical and beautiful, and it's just very confusing as well, because you actually don't know what's real and what's fake. So it definitely takes a while for you to try and like dissect it a little bit more. But yeah, it's definitely a really good book series, and I really enjoyed reading the first one. I've seen so like a lot of discourse about the book series, and people didn't really like the first one. They preferred the last two in the book series, and I'm going to kind of disagree with that, because I actually really enjoyed the first one, and I was a bit sad that the point of view changed for the second one, because the second one is following the sister Tella, and I really didn't like her in the first one. Like, she has growth, she does develop as a character, but I really hated her in like the first book. I much preferred Scarlet and like her story and all the characters you kind of meet there, but you do start to like Tella as the story progresses, and you understand her a little bit more, and you kind of see her grow as a character, which is interesting. But I would say Scarlet was probably my favourite character when it came to the book series in general. But it's definitely very interesting. Now the second one I did like for a slightly different character. So I'm sure many of you have read Once Upon a Broken Heart. I haven't read Once Upon a Broken Heart. I got the book in a Fairy Loot like unboxing a couple years ago. I think it was in like 2022. I got that. I was gonna read it when I first got it, but I actually, weirdly enough, I didn't know it was a part of like this series. And I got this from, I think I got the book series from like the Works or something like that. Amazing place to get books if you're interested and you live in England. It's great. But I do have Once Upon a Broken Heart. Hang on, let me show you it. Okay, so this is the one that I have, and if you look at the sprayed edges, they're so pretty. They're like pink on there, and then they're kind of got like a really cute design there. And then on the inside of it, you've kind of got all this really pretty artwork too. And they're just gorgeous. Look at that. It's so pretty. And you've kind of got that there, and then even there you got all like the really pretty artwork and things, and then again there. It's so nice. And this copy is also signed as well, so it is signed by Stephanie Gabler, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. But yeah, it's super pretty. And I think when this first came out as like the Fairy Loot one, everyone kind of got like a different like front bit, if that makes sense. Like a different like what's this called? What's the word I'm looking for? Glossed? Embellished? Not embezzlement, that's the wrong word. What word is this? There's a word for this. If you guys know what the word I'm thinking of, please tell me, because my mind has just gone blank and I can't think of what it is. Anyway, there's a word for this. Like the glossy bit. I don't know what it's called, but anyway, I'm pretty sure that everyone got like a different version on like the front bit. I could be wrong, but I think I remember seeing there was like different versions that got released for this story. And mine has like the Ballad of the Archer and the Fox. But yeah, it's super pretty, and it's such a gorgeous like design. I love it so much. I really missed the Fairy Loot like boxes, but they were just so expensive, so I couldn't actually commit to paying that much every month. I have so many of like the Fairy Loot editions, and they're just gorgeous books. I really recommend, if you have the money to splurge on it, definitely do it. I didn't do the Owl Crate one. I know that's another one. I just did the Fairy Loot one, and you got so many like other cool things with it. I have like a tote bag, little dishes and things like that I used to like put my keys on and things. I also got, what else did I get? I think I got like washi tape and like a flannel one time as well. But you get some really cool like book things, so I definitely recommend it if you have the money to splurge on it. I just didn't have the money to continue splurging on it, and I still don't. But well, maybe one day I will go back and I will have the Fairy Loot editions again, because I think they're such beautiful books and they just look so pretty and I just love them. Now, the reason I did just show you the Fairy Loot edition is because you meet this character called Jax in this book. This book. And Jax is a really, really interesting character, and I got really confused when he got introduced, because I was like, oh, I recognize that name, I've seen that name, has been all over like my TikTok feed, I know that guy. And you're kind of reading about him and you're like, that's the main guy that everyone's obsessed with, him? Okay, enemies to lovers, let's go. You guys should read it and just figure out what he's about. But he's definitely more of the enemy in this book. I have no idea what he's like in that one. I could be thinking that he is an angel in that one, but actually he is still the villain in this story. He's not like a bad villain, but he's not like a good person or anything, but that's a part of his appeal. So I recommend reading this series because you meet Jax in this book and he's quite a cool character. Now, when it comes to like the last book, so finale, I have really mixed opinions about it, because I don't want to give too many spoilers away, and I probably have given quite a few spoilers away, so sorry if you've not read it. I think this book series has been out forever. You know what the deal is with it. But when it comes to this bit, I really enjoyed kind of where I thought they were going with it. I was just a little bit disappointed with the actual ending. I thought it was quite rushed with the way that some things happened. And I thought they could have gone a little bit of a different route with it. But yeah, I don't want to say too much, just in case some people haven't read it and they're watching this being like, oh, I want to read that series, and I'm like yeah, so this happens and it's great, and then this happens and it's absolutely awful. So I don't want to put you off, because please read it. It's such a cool series, especially if you like fantasy. And there is romance as well, so it's not just like fantasy and there's loads of action and loads of magic and stuff. There's fantasy, action, romance and magic, and it's really, really beautiful. And also the edits that people do for this book series on TikTok, oh my god, they're so cool. They are really, really cool. And I really like going on Pinterest and kind of searching like the characters and seeing how people like imagine them in their head and how they like create it. And I think some people are very, very talented. I wish I was that talented, but I am awful when it comes to drawing. But I really enjoy seeing what people think about the characters and kind of like how they design the characters and view it in their head. But yeah, so that's kind of like my review of the Caraval series. I really recommend it, and I am very, very interested in like reading the next kind of spin-off series in it. I also saw that there has been like a Christmas novella that's been released called Spectacular, which I really want for Christmas. So I think I might treat myself to it as like a Christmas present, because I think that'll be such like a cute thing to read on like Christmas Eve or something. I probably won't finish it on Christmas Eve because I take forever to finish a book at the moment, but maybe I will. We can try. But yeah, so that's kind of like my little reading update, which I thought could be a nice little thing to throw in for the vlogmas. And I think I might have a plan to do something this Friday. I'm supposed to be going to like a Swiftogeddon night, but my friend has kind of like bailed on it, so I don't know if I'm still gonna go or not. I've got mixed feelings about it. I don't really feel comfortable like going on my own. It feels a bit awkward, especially when it's in like your hometown. Does anyone else feel like this though? Like if you're doing something in your hometown, you don't want to do it alone just in case you see people that obviously you went to school with and stuff like that. It's just way more awkward. I just don't like it. Whereas if I was thrown into like a whole different town, I lived there, just moved there all on my own, and I was forced to go out and make friends, I feel like I would enjoy that way more than doing something in my hometown. So I don't know. So you might see some Swiftogeddon content on Friday, but we'll see if I'm gonna go. If not, I'll be at home reading and attempting to finish this.